back to my channel. Yes, today is Thursday, and we all know what that is. The critical drinker. But let's start with greetings then. Come on. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'll be your host here.
Guy in the chair.
He said it.
And today, for the critical drinker, we'll hear what his thoughts on why modern movies suck nowadays. So let's hear it and enjoy. So enjoy.
You can't handle the truth. I'll be back. You're gonna need a bigger boat. May the force be with you. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Go ahead, make my day. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Yo, Adrian, I did it. Now, when I read out those quotes, I made a point of not imitating the accents or the intonations, and I gave you no visual clues whatsoever to help you out. They came from a wide range of different movies from different genres, different decades and styles, so there's no common thread to pick up on that might help you out. But does any of that matter? Nope, because I'll bet that pretty much every one of you could name not just the movie they came from, but also the actors who said them and probably picture the exact scene in your heads. Let's try another one, shall we? Luke Skywalker, Captain Kirk, James Bond, Sarah Connor, Sherlock Holmes, Rocky Balboa, Bruce Wayne, Marty McFly, Indiana Jones, Forrest Gump, Hannibal Lecter. The moment I say those names, it instantly conjures up an image of that person in your mind, the actor that played them, the most iconic moments they took part in, and even the emotions that the character inspires. That right there, my friends, is the power of the cultural footprint. It's the ability of films to transcend the medium they started in and become a living, breathing part of our culture, referenced and quoted and thought about by generation after generation. Here's the problem though. Not a single one of them was created in the past 20 years.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's kind of worrying, isn't it? And before you start accusing me of cherry-picking my examples just to prove a point, I can tell you that I looked up 6 different lists of the 100 best movie quotes of all time for this video, read every single one from start to finish, and not a single one belonged to a movie made after 2005. Look up any list of iconic movie characters and I can pretty much guarantee they'll all be from 2010 or earlier, and even if they do exist in newer movies like the Marvel or DC universes, the characters themselves will have been created decades earlier in books, comics or TV shows. What you're seeing today is just another iteration of something that was invented generations ago, just another meal made by someone else reheated in the cultural microwave. One of the saddest emails I ever read was from a young subscriber of mine complaining that their generation doesn't really have anything to call their own. No unique cultural touchstone they can point to and say, see that? That was ours. That was our Star Wars, our Lord of the Rings, our rock and roll. Everything they see and watch and listen to now is either a continuation of some old franchise or a remake of something that came out decades ago. And all of this got me thinking, wow, we're living in a bit of a cultural wasteland these days, aren't we? We're not really creating much of anything new or memorable anymore. We're just rehashing stuff that's already been done before, making copies of copies that gradually degenerate into mediocrity and failure. I mean, just take a look at the 3 big movies in theaters this month. Jurassic World, the 7th movie in the Jurassic Park franchise. Fantastic Four, the 3rd movie version of these characters in the past 20 years, based on a comic from 60 years ago. And Superman, the 3rd iteration in the past 20 years, not counting TV shows and video games of course, based on a comic from 80 years ago. I mean, don't get me wrong, they make money, that's for sure. Well, maybe not Fantastic Four, but you get my point. Jurassic World's on track to make $1 billion, and Superman will probably do okay as well, although even that's looking a bit shaky right now. But box office revenue isn't the same as cultural impact, and that is the big difference here. This time next year, in fact, fuck it, probably this time next month, nobody's even going to remember a single scene, character, or line of dialogue from Jurassic World Afterbirth. Shit, man, I can barely even remember it now. Nobody's going to be quoting or referencing James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn by the time it leaves theaters. They're the movie equivalent of a fast food meal, something to be consumed quickly and then forgotten about just as quickly, so that if it wasn't for the heartburn and the explosive diarrhea later in the day, you probably wouldn't be sure if you'd even eaten it. The Avatar movies are probably the peak example of all this. Each of them makes more money than a small African country, and the next one will be no different, but nobody ever talks about them. Nobody posts fan theories or cites their most famous lines or references iconic characters in other works because, well, there's nothing to reference. They're nothing but hollow spectacle, devoid of deeper meaning or substance, as pointless and empty as that hotel in North Korea with all the lights on the outside that's been sat unoccupied for 30 years. Even Avengers Endgame, arguably the single biggest movie event of all time, is nothing more than a footnote in film history at this point. Nobody talks about it anymore, except maybe to reference it as the turning point where the MCU started its downward plunge into abject shittiness. I guess part of the problem there is that we've been wowed by visual spectacle so many times now that it creates a kind of numbness in the audience. You're never really going to replicate the sheer impact of that first Star Destroyer in A New Hope, or the T-Rex attack in Jurassic Park, or the rain-soaked neon cityscapes of Blade Runner, because we've seen it all before now. It might still be impressive, but it's rarely memorable. But films are more than just bright colours on screen. The most memorable characters and moments in film history are usually just regular old people in normal places delivering lines that actually mean something because of good writing without half the universe having to explode in the backgrounds. And we're just not getting them anymore. And it's not just films. It feels like every aspect of modern culture has been weirdly dulled and toned down and homogenized. I mean, come on, you must have noticed it yourself, even if it was only subconsciously. That weird feeling of inertia, of stagnation, like we're not really growing or advancing anymore. We're just sort of continuing. Like butter scraped over too much bread, you might say. Try this. Pick any decade of the 20th century, and I reckon most people could probably identify it based on the clothes, the technology, the music, or the films. Each one had its own unique identity, its own fads and fashions and zeitgeists, from the rock and roll of the 50s to the angst and counterculture of the 70s to the rise of the internet in the 90s. But at some point, probably around the late 2000s or the early 2010s, it all seemed to slow down and then, well, stop. There were no definable fashions anymore. Technology became iterative instead of revolutionary. Pop music became homogenized covers of songs from a decade earlier, and the era of the remake and the reboot kicked off in Hollywood big time. We stopped moving forward and we began looking backwards, and it feels like we've been stuck in that loop ever since. And quite simply, that is not good for any of us. So where's it all heading? Are we all just circling the drain of cultural oblivion, or are we on the brink of a new golden age of enlightenment and progress? Well, for my own sanity, and yours I suspect, I want to believe in the latter. I hope that what we're seeing now is the tail end of a cultural era that's been kept on life support way beyond its natural time by corporate greed, laziness, and risk aversion. A lot of the dusty old franchises that our parents' generation grew up on and we've been clinging to like comfort blankets for decades are reaching the end of their cultural relevance now, mostly because of horrendous mismanagement and creative retardation, but what the fuck? Ultimately, it was gonna happen anyway no matter what. Hollywood's own incompetence has just sped up the process. I think we're reaching that tipping point now, and maybe I was wrong at the beginning when I described the modern landscape as a cultural wasteland. Maybe it's more like a cultural dam that's been holding back the flood for too long. The cracks are starting to appear, and sooner or later, it's gonna burst. And if that's the case, it'll be interesting to see what's left after the floodwaters recedes. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Hey guys, yeah, he has a good point. There's a lot of movies, newer movies, none have any memorable scenes. Like, oh, I could think of a few of them. He didn't aim, but either way, I still know a lot from growing up in the 90s. Of course, those were movies before the rise of reboots and all this good jazz. They're milking poor Star Wars to death. I don't know. I just like they want to continue on the Skywalker saga or not. I don't know. I don't think they know what they're doing. But either way, I'm here for it and going to be until the attack when that comes, good Lord. But if you like it, comment down below and then subscribe. And after y'all share and do it, but I hope you had an awesome night and your day goes really well. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.